Hello, hello, hello. Happy Thursday, y'all. And welcome to Bankroll Your Brains Thursdays. I'm Nicole Roberts Jones, the Bankroll Your Brains expert. Always excited, happy, blessed to be here to hold the space for you. So, as you all that come here week after week, you already know what I'm getting ready to say. Don't come in my house and I speak. Well, yeah, you're in my virtual house today. So come on in, tell us the name and where you're joining from. If, not if, when, because this powerhouse I know is going to give you some great insight. When she gives you some insight, I want you to give her some hearts when she steps on your toes, maybe just a little bit. Give her some fire emojis. And if you have questions, I'm definitely looking at the chat so that I can ask them here live. So, as you know, every week as we come to you for Bankroll Your Brains Thursdays, we cover one of three topics. One, what is your brilliance? The one thing God has created you to do and be in this world. The second is the value tied to it. And the third is how do you create multiple streams of income? So here's what I know about this woman that I'm getting ready to bring up. She's probably going to talk from all three. But really, I want you to get that you have so much value. And that's why this conversation, which is managing a boss and burnout, that's why this conversation is so important. And if you haven't been burned out yet, you're either in denial or you will be. Hey, Catherine in Birmingham, welcome. So, with that said, let me bring up Dr. Cameka Smith. So, she is an award winning entrepreneur, a speaker, and influencer who turned lemons into lemonade when she was displaced from her job in 2009. That's when she founded as a visionary and founder of the Boss Network. See, she believes that your net worth is directly tied and results in your net work. See, Dr. Cameka, has provided a platform for women of color to connect, grow, and prosper in their business and in their careers. She has founded this Boss Network, which, listen, has been featured in Adweek, Black Enterprise, Inc., and listed in Forbes as one of the top 10 websites to visit for career and entrepreneurial women. And by the way, even though I keep saying women, fellas, don't think you're going to not get some great insight from this woman. So if you're looking for a resource as a woman of color, connect with over 250,000 bosses making moves professionally by joining the Boss Network. So, with that said, let's get this party started and bring up Dr. Cameka Smith. Hey, hey, girl.
Hey, boss lady, how are you?
I'm good. Excited to have you here. Always excited to get to talk
Always.
to you.
Yeah, I'm
So,
excited to be here.
let's dig right in and talk. Let's talk about what gave you the confidence to build this network and really your brand because you are a natural networker. So, what allowed you to see your gift? Yeah, I'm going in already and realize that you could build a whole network around it.
Wow. So, Nicole, first I want to say thank you so much for having me on Bankroll Your Brilliance. You are a good friend of mine for many, many years. You're actually one of my founding members of the Boss Network, so many years ago. Like, I think we're celebrating our 13th year anniversary this year. And so it's just been a journey. And you talked about it in my intro. I was displaced from my job back in 2009. I think a lot of people can relate to that because that season, the recession was happening and a lot of people were hit hard. And so, being here in Chicago, I work for Chicago Public Schools as an educator and an administrator. And so, I love my job. I had a service job. I was working with students, impacting their lives. So, I was doing exactly what I set out to do, right, with my career. And I got knocked off my feet. I got laid off, which was not a part of the plan because you go to college, you get a double degree. You feel like, okay, I'm setting myself up for the American dream, right? I'm going to have this career and have it for the rest of my life, but that's just not how it goes.
Right. And let me pause. Because some of you guys, listen, she's talking about 2009, but like she just said, some of that is happening right now. Maybe you've gotten
Absolutely.
laid off because of COVID, or maybe you've gotten laid off and it has nothing to do with COVID, or maybe you're in a job and you realize, okay, there's got to be more. I want you to she's getting ready to tell you what she did. So if that's you, get your pen because she's getting ready to tell you. Go
Absolutely.
ahead.
So, I think for me, when we are at these, what I call crossroads in our lives, and these can come in so many different forms, right? Being laid off from a job, going through a divorce, having health issues, it's really a mental thing. Right. And so we have to figure out what are we going to do in that moment. And so for me, it was just innate. I mean, I was at the time, maybe like 30 years old, but I was like very much, thinking about what was next. I didn't really focus on what had happened to me. I was like, okay, what's next? What's my next opportunity? I had always been interested in entrepreneurship. And so this was my chance to step out and do something that I've always wanted to do now that I was getting kicked out of the nest.
Right. And I love that you even said you had this list. How many of y'all, because I had that list too, have
Yeah.
the list of the job you wanted, your career trajectory, all the things you thought you were going to do, and then God, I always say. Because even with me, when, and you know this, Cameka, when I started in the entertainment industry, I had all the lists and I was climbing the list just like I had laid it out. And
Right.
then one day I felt like something was missing. And I thought, okay, wait a minute. I
Yeah.
love my job. How could I feel like this? And so I, like you, two different crossroads, but yet crossroad where you've
Yeah.
got to make a choice. And what I know for both of us, God was just calling us to use our gift, or I should
Mhm.
actually say where we were was just no longer big enough for our gift. And it was time for
Absolutely.
us to up level how we used our gifts in the world. So even with that, how did you know what to do to bring your brilliance into the marketplace? It's like it doesn't just happen like that. It's like, but for
Yeah.
you, for some, it seemed like a light bulb went on, and you
Yeah.
began to just move forward. So what was it that
Mm.
kind of helped you get clear on that?
Well, you know what? I feel like okay. So think about this, Nicole. A lot of us in this life, our main focus is how to find our purpose, right? And I know you had a program that you talked about purpose a
Mhm.
lot. That's a big part of
Yeah.
who you are, and teaching people how to find their purpose. But I truly believe that our purpose is in God, And so I'm a believer. I'm a spiritual woman, and so I believe our purpose is in God. And so when we look back on our life, it's like everything that we were doing was leading us to our purpose. So if you just pay
Yes.
attention to where you are in life and where you're going and the things that bring you joy, right? That is probably where your purpose is going to lie. And so for
Yeah.
me, I knew that entrepreneurship was something that I was in love with because I was an entrepreneur since I was probably 12 years old, selling candy. If you weren't selling something in high school, honey, you're not an entrepreneur, let me tell you. So I was selling something in high school. So my friends, when I got to college, I was doing hair. And so I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit. I didn't particularly know how to be an entrepreneur. I just was hustling. You know what I'm saying? Trying to figure out how to
Right.
make extra money and handle my business. And so when I got laid off, for me, it was like, okay, you have this opportunity to step out and do something that you really want to do, right? Because sometimes we go the safe route, right? My
Mhm.
career, it was a safe route. It was a way to secure me a good life, making
Yeah.
six figures, impacting people, and I was okay with that. But God had more for me. He had bigger for me, and so He kicked me out
Mhm.
of the nest because I probably would have never left. And so that was a blessing in disguise. And so in that moment, I just took advantage of that time and said, okay, well, let me try something different. And so I set out to, grow my company, which I already had at the time, but I was just doing it part-time as a little side hustle, which was event planning and marketing, because I've always been a natural networker. I've always been a natural marketer, getting people together, knowing how to make things beautiful and make things stand out, right? And so I
Mhm.
was already working with brands like Nike and BMW and Crown Royal and other brands in Chicago as a brand ambassador, which now they call an influencer, right? This was 15 years ago. And so I just used my gifts, things that I were good at, and I set out to grow my business. Well,
Yeah.
during that time, I was without a job. And so when you have a side job, a side hustle, it's different from a full-time business owner. And so I
Mhm.
realized I need help. And so that comes with pride, right? Sometimes we gotta figure out how to get the help that we need and not be prideful and then we won't ask for the help, right? So I said,
Right.
okay, I know how to run my business, but there's bigger things that I need to learn to be able to scale this business. And so let me go talk to some entrepreneurs and some people that have done it. And that's when I set out to talk to different entrepreneurs, different women of color who had created businesses, and they instilled so much into me until I felt like, you know what? I'm an event planner, I'm a marketer, this information is so valuable. If I can bring this to my community, how impactful will that be? And so for me, it was really just a give back. I didn't really look
Mm.
at the Boss Network as a business at that point. I was an event planner, a marketing company. And so I just
Right.
really wanted to create a space for other Black women to learn what I was learning. So that's God stuff,
Mm.
right? That's God stuff. Me
Mhm.
trying to give back
Mhm.
and help other people while I'm growing. And so by
Right.
me doing that, God blessed it. And so when I launched the Boss series, because it was just a series at that point of events, Boss, acronym, bringing out successful sisters, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring
Mm.
Black women that were successful together to have conversations about how do we grow as a community? How do we thrive in our corporate jobs or in our businesses? And so from there, it just took a life of its own.
That's good. Wait, I got to stop because she gonna keep going. Listen, a
Yeah.
couple things that came up for me. Okay, so you guys know I'm part student, part host. Okay, so number one, as you were talking, what I'm reminded of is, and those of you that come here week after week, you get part church, part some good insight. So
Yeah.
there's a Bible verse that says, "Do not despise the day of small beginnings." And so, what you've just showed people, so many people think that God gives you a vision and you go from here to all the way to the vision. No, you've got to
Right.
take small incremental steps to get to the vision. But even for you, you said, let me start with where I am. And I
Yeah.
want you guys to get, she was already doing some of these things, but these are the things you were innately great at. And what you did, the second thing, and if y'all didn't take this note, here's the second note I took. The word ministry means to serve a group of people. Now, if you go look at the definition, the first two says something about pulpit and religion and all that, and I'm not discounting that. But I want you to get the third definition, at least in Webster, says to serve a group of people. What you did was you created your own ministry. She said that was God, and it was.
Mm-hmm.
So what I know, even in my own work with my clients, is our purpose is in us at birth.
Yes.
We've got to do the work to uncover it, to discover it. So what you did was not only were you clear on the things you were great at, but then you said, let me see who I can serve with it. And
That's
that's
right.
a difference, y'all. So when I talk about bankroll your brilliance, bankroll is a supply. If God is our
Mm.
supplier, he's given us everything we need. The question is, what will you do with what you have? So
Yes.
good, Cameka, so good. So you've grown this community. And I mean, listen, you guys, let me say this from, and I'm gonna step out of host and step into member of the Boss Network. The thing that was great for me is when you are starting a business and there's nobody else around you doing it, and dare I say,
Mhm.
nobody else that looks like you
Right.
around you doing it, you feel lost, you feel alone, you're stressed out, you don't know who to talk to. So, in essence, what you did was create this community where women can gather, get insight, but also can network and meet each other, which is who you be. So,
Yeah.
how did you even see the value in that and know that, I don't even know what to ask, but it's just like I could just
Yeah.
see how it's grown so much since day one and the value. And it's like, how did you even see that?
Yeah. You know what? I believe that part of it is vision. When
Mm,
you are connected to, your spirit and you are connected to God, He will give you a vision. And so
yeah.
when I launched the Boss Network, like I said, it was not for me as a business. It was really just, for me to give these women a place to talk about, how we can grow. And honestly, it was kind of selfish because I was trying to grow myself. I wanted to learn as much as possible. Then I just decided to share with other women, right? But from that, when women start to email me and say, from these events that I was doing, how do we join Boss? Because they felt connected. They felt the authenticity, right? Because I wasn't
Mm,
doing it to make money at that time. I was doing it more so as a give back. And that's why one of my biggest models is serve your way to success. Because when you do
mm,
what you're called to do, God will bless you. There is immense
yes.
amount of blessings that come into that, right? And so as women start emailing me saying, how do I join the Boss Network? I was like, join. I was like, oh, well, it's just events that I do. There's nothing really to join. But then, of course, the good entrepreneur in me, I prayed about it. I said, well, if this is something that people want, let me figure out how to give it to him. So I just prayed about it and I asked God to show me the vision for what he saw this to be. And I just started researching. I started researching
Mm,
because that's a good entrepreneur, right? A good entrepreneur is going to do their research, right? Seeing what's in the marketplace that's available because all you're doing is solving a problem that exists. And the problem was Black women did not have a space to talk about entrepreneurship, to talk about business. Now, mind you, 2022, it's everywhere. We're leading
mhm,
the number one group of entrepreneurs in the country, right? But 2009, it was not the case, right? So I was a
mm,
trailblazer, a leader in this industry. And so I decided that, you know what? I'm going to create a space for these women for my research. Facebook was just really new on the marketplace. I got involved in Facebook and I was like, you know what? If I can create the Facebook for Black women, because I'm thinking about, hey, if Mark Zuckerberg can do it, why can't I? You know what I'm saying? Like he went to college, I went to college, like it is what it is, right? And so I decided to create the Boss Network in the platform of Facebook, where we
mm,
called it like networking beyond the events, right? So after my events were over, I wanted these women to have a space where they actually can talk about some of the challenges that they face. They actually can share resources with each other. They actually can, grow within this community and support each other because that's the biggest thing in our community that we have, some of the problems with is access. We don't have access to a lot of mentors. We don't have access to a lot of resources. There's so much
yeah,
information out there. Sometimes we get overwhelmed. And I'm a person that I'm a curator. I know how to bring people together and information together. So I said, let me just create this one platform where it's like a one-stop shop where you can come and you can learn and you can grow. And once
yeah,
I did that out of purpose, because there was not even a fee in the beginning, and then God starts showing me how to bring more value to that as women start asking
mm,
me, hey, can you coach me? Hey, can I market on this platform? Hey, are you having more events? And that's when I start building out the membership part of the business and also the marketing strategies and even starting to pitch it to other brands that I have been working with in the past saying, hey, Black women spend trillions of dollars in the marketplace. This is a huge consumer base of women that you need to be marketing to, and you need to pay
right.
me to do it.
And that's good. And I want you guys to get this. Listen, I'm making sure you guys are following along because she's dropping nuggets and y'all don't even realize it. Look, we both talk fast. So y'all listen. She's
Right.
dropping so many nuggets. Number one, she saw a need in the marketplace. So many people say, oh, well, someone else is going to do that. It's like, no, if not me, then who? And so she
Right.
researched it. Now, the other thing I want you to get, and it's so funny, one of my girlfriends says this all the time, there's nothing new that'll be done. Now, what I
Mhm.
mean by that is there were no Black women doing it in 2009. And even though there's a ton of Black women organizations, just because you see someone else doing it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You just don't need to copy what they're doing. Because
That's
if
right.
you both are doing the same thing, one of you are not necessary. Okay.
That's right.
So what you did was you found the hole and said, how about I fill it?
Yeah.
And once you said, how about I fill it? She didn't just go do whatever, whenever, however. She got strategic and
Yeah.
created strategy. So
That's
good, so
great.
good.
Yeah.
So tell us what's next. Like, now you start the Boss Network. Now you've done. Oh, the other thing she said, y'all, I want you to get this, is your client will tell you what they need. I say this to my clients all the
Absolutely.
time. You're really not the expert, your client is. It's like,
Yeah.
doctors go to medical school for 13 years or however long they go to medical school, and yet they still, you can say your throat hurts, they're checking your knee, they listen to your breath. I'm like, I said my throat hurts. Why are you checking my knee? But they're
Right.
giving you a whole thorough, and I'm being, I'm exaggerating, but they give you a thorough examination before they give you a diagnosis. Because listen,
Right.
if the prescription is wrong, how are you going to move anything forward? And what you did was you thoroughly examined
Yeah.
so you can be the prescription, be the
Yeah.
answer for this group of Black women. And so
Yeah.
you started, and Boss Network, now listen, has done tours, done events all over the country. You've done, I mean, all kind of things. You have great partnerships
Yeah.
with with brands, and it's just like, how did you go from, and I want y'all to get ready because she gonna drop some nuggets,
Yeah.
from that to continue to grow. And I'm
Yeah.
only sharing that with you because you get to one place.
Yeah.
And my pastor covering says, we grow in levels and go through stages. So
Yeah.
when you got to your first goal, that wasn't enough for Cameka. Listen, I've been watching you, right? Like she said, I've been a
Mhm.
part of the network. Then she grew to the next, and then it's the next. It's like, how did you continue to grow at such a almost a ginormous level?
Yeah. You know what? I want to go back to something because I love what you were talking about when you were talking about, how do you take advantage of the opportunity, right? And your clients telling you what they want. When I started the Boston Network, I was very clear with my community, like, listen, I'm growing as I'm going. You all are watching me grow as I build this community. If there's things that you want to see happen, let me know. And I utilize the women in my network. When I started doing tours, my second year in business. I went to 4 different cities, and I had members that had just joined online that were helping me do these events in different cities because they believed in my vision. I didn't have
Yeah.
money to pay these women at the time, but they just felt a sense of community and wanted to support that. And so it's important to understand that there were a lot of networks out there that existed. But like you said, there was nothing really there for Black women on a national scale. And so I just
Mhm.
saw it open in the marketplace. And within 6 months of launching my digital platform, the bostonnetwork.org, Forbes listed me as one of the top websites for Black women. Well, not Black women, for women in general. But I made sure that I stayed focused on my target market because people kept telling me, oh my God, you're only second year in business. You've been listed in Forbes. You need to make this for everyone. And I was like, but why would I do that? Because now I'm in Forbes. I set out to do this for a group of women who did not have access to resources and community and network. And they've helped me get to this point. So why would I now not support them because I'm trying to take advantage of that? No, I stayed
Yeah.
true to my vision and what God was showing me because I knew if I stayed true to that, he was going to just take me at a higher level. So now, mind you,
Whew.
if I would have made it a neutral network for everyone, I wouldn't be the number one network for Black women in business, right? I would be just another network. But because I
And
stayed.
you would have watered down your brand. You would have watered down your brand because that is not even what your brand is.
Yeah, yeah. But it also gave me a space to be a leader in this industry. So when you think about Black women entrepreneurs, if you Google that, the Boss Network is popping up. My face is popping up because I've been doing it for so long and I stayed true to my original vision. And so
Yeah.
now we're talking about how do you continue to pivot and scale that vision, right? I always keep my eye on what's happening in the marketplace. I'm
Mhm.
always looking at different people who are doing it. I'm always looking at people who are, in other industries like mine, how they're growing, right? And like you said, I'm not trying to copy what they do. I'm just trying to stay ahead of the curve, right? And
Yes.
so, and also putting people around me that are smarter than me. If you're the smartest person in the room, you need to be in another room. And so I knew as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
I did not know everything. I didn't have an MBA. I didn't study entrepreneurship for years at that point in my life, but I knew I was good at relationships. I knew that I value people, and I knew that I was authentic, and I knew that if I put that out there into the world, people would be, they would connect to that. And so because of my personality and my seriousness about me wanting to help women and being very consistent about that and not wavering on that and showing up 100% in excellence at every point in time, I attracted women like, Beverly Johnson, women like Beyonce's mom, Tina Knowles, women like Michelle Williams, women like, Sarita Jakes, who, allowed me to speak at Mega Fest, with TD Jakes. And so I think that I knew nobody when I started. I was a girl from the west side of Chicago, trying to teach kids, but because I stayed true to my vision, and I always knew that God is the CEO of my business. And so he is running this business. There is no opportunity. There is no access. There is nothing that I cannot have to make this thing grow, because it is his. He gave me this vision because it wasn't mine. And so from that, I just always pray and I put it before God and I say, okay, what's the next level? And I'm gonna give you an example. When COVID hit, the pandemic, we all saw all of our businesses struggle. I mean, I'm telling you, even as a business who had been in business at that point for 10 years, I had just celebrated my 10-year anniversary. Thank God I was able to actually celebrate that in a big way without having the pandemic hit that next year. That was favor, right? But that next year, after my 10-year anniversary, the pandemic hit. And it was like, okay, everything shut down. All of my 6-figure contracts with brands stopped. We could not do events anymore. We could not do tours anymore. And that was a big bulk of my business. But the beauty of my business was it was always digital, because I knew that was the future. And so as I was pivoting, that was already in position. So it wasn't a hard pivot for me, right? Because we always did things online. We always had workshops virtually. That was just a part of the brand, but we did a lot of live stuff because I just like being in front of people and being in community. And so what I did was I literally took 6 months, because I was like, okay, I haven't taken a break in 10 years. The world is shut down. I'm gonna take a break, and sometimes we gotta be still so that we can see where the next level is going. You know what I'm saying? We got to be able to be still and listen, because when we're busy, we're not really being productive at times, right? So there were a lot of things that I wanted to do over the years with my business, and I was putting them in a box, right? I was keeping them in a file of future projects, but I never had the chance because I was always on the road traveling, speaking at conferences, doing tours. And so when I had a chance to sit down, it allowed me to say, what is the next level for you, Cameka? And then guess what happened? All these brands, because of George Floyd and all the things that were happening around all the racial unjust, said, we're going to start committing money to the Black community to help entrepreneurs. We're going to commit millions of dollars. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I've been doing this for 10 plus years. If y'all want to make some commitments, hey, the Boss Network needs to be in that number. And so that's when I launched the Boss Impact Fund. And I said, no longer do I want to just provide resources and access for Black women, but I want to provide them funding. My legacy will be me investing in hundreds of Black women-owned businesses. And this year, we just launched the fund this year, at the top of this year, and I've already invested in 40 Black women businesses.
Yes. So good. So good. Listen, y'all, this woman right here is a wealth of knowledge. If you're not a member of the Boss Network, here is, and she didn't know I was going to do this. Go to thebossnetwork.org, thebossnetwork.org, join. She has a gift for you, but I want you guys to really, really get this. The couple things, okay, you guys, I'm reviewing my notes that are in my head. So the couple things that were yummy to me, number one, she said, God is her CEO. And you and I have that in common. And here's the other thing. I talk to my clients always about what I call the be, do, have formula. Some of you guys have heard me talk about this in Bankroll Your Brilliance Thursdays. So we call ourselves human beings, but we're not. We're human doings, because we focus on what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? And I want you guys to hear that in every step of the journey, she said, pray. She said, stop, ask God. She said, took 6 months off. Every step of the journey, what you've done is connect back to your being, which is where God speaks to you. She also said, God's not going to show up when you're busy. You'll be like, okay, I guess you think you got it. So go on, girl. Right. And he has so much more for you. Like my aunt said to me once, don't limit God's ability to bless you, because we second guess or we play small. So let me ask you one last question, because here's what I know also. Every new level comes fear. Fear that makes you think, oh, what if this, and what if it fails, and what if that? When fear comes, how do you really stay true to your calling and not let fear stop you?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer that, but I also want to, because I know our topic today was to talk about, being a burned out boss, right? And so I want to share, I know this is blackdoctors.org, but I know you're a believer. So this is, a conversation that we can have. This year was probably one of the most challenging years of my life. In February, I launched the Boss Impact Fund, a $10 million fund to raise capital for Black women businesses. And I launched that fund and were able to invest in 40 Black women. And the next month, my mother passed away.
Yeah.
And that was my best friend. That was my cheerleader. She was my person. She was a person who just motivated me and instilled so much in me. She was a pastor. She was a minister for many, many years. And she was a great leader in our community. And so having that type of person in your life that's a huge impact, and then losing them in the midst of doing something big, it just floored me. I was knocked off my feet. The wind was taken out of me. And I told myself, how do I go on? Like this was the person who I leaned on for everything, and she was very young, 61 years old, but I just saw her give so much. And so that was a cautionary tale for me, that you can give, but don't give to the point of you're giving yourself and you have nothing left. That is not servanthood, right? God does not call us to be martyrs. He wants us to serve ourselves just as much as we serve other people. And so that was my lesson in that. But also what I realized was I am in a season of grieving right now and healing. And I say healing, grieving, and thriving at the same time. And I had a conversation with my team recently, and I said, I feel like this year I've been floating. Now, if you lost a parent or a child or someone that's really close to you, you understand what that grief feels like. And so I feel like I've been just floating this year. And some of it in me can't even understand it because I'm such a person that likes to do things in excellence. I'm a go-getter. And so to feel like I'm not working in my full capacity, it bothers me. But there's so much happening. I got my doctorate degree this year, thanks to one of my beautiful friends, right? I was able to get a huge award during Juneteenth by JP Morgan Chase as a Black leader in the community. I launched a $10 million fund for Black women. And I feel like I'm not even doing it. And what God told me, what he told me was, you've already done the work. This is your reaping season. And so you know how that parable in the Bible, or it's a parable that talks about footprints in the sand. You're walking with God, and along the way you realize there's only one set of footprints. And the person is like, God, have you left me? And God says, no. In those moments, I'm carrying you. Realize that even though I feel like I'm not operating at my fullest for 11 plus years, I've been doing the work. These are seeds that have already been planted, and God is bringing me through this time and manifesting all these things that I've already put in work to. And he's carrying me through this, because what he's showing me was, it was never you, Cameka. It was always. And so even though right now you feel like you're not doing anything, but all these things are happening, it's because it was always me anyway. It was me carrying you. It was me blessing you. It was me pushing you forward. And so in this season where you're resting, I'm carrying you through.
That's so good. That's so good. Listen, y'all, that was a breakthrough somebody needed today. So listen, just because I know we can go on, and I'm committed always to be here for 30 minutes to give you some great insight. Cameka has a free ebook for you. I'm going to let her tell you about it. 7 Steps to Grow Your Professional Network. All you got to do is email info@thebossnetwork.org. Tell them about this ebook, Cameka.
Absolutely. So one of the first things that I did when I started to grow my business was I partnered with Black Enterprise, because they were some organization that was a media organization that I have been just a huge fan of for years. And I wanted to be able to be connected to them. And part of that was being a content, provider for opportunities to help Black women grow in business, and men, right? Because this is for anyone. And so I started to put together my strategy on how I started to create my professional network, because your network is your net worth. And so we created the 7 Steps to Grow Your Professional Network. If you go on blackenterprise.com and search Cameka Smith, you'll actually see the challenge. It was a 7-day challenge that we did. But if you email info@thebossnetwork.org, we'll actually send you a free copy of the ebook. And it goes through everything that you need to get started on building your professional network that's going to help you grow your brand. And I also talk a little bit about how to get through that burnout too. So that's going to be well.
So good, so good. And she's giving you guys some great tips. And we went off on a whole other tangent. So thank you, Dr. Cameka, for all you are. Thank you for standing in the gap for all of us. Thank you for, doing it afraid, for even in the face of losing your mom. And I remember how hard that was for you, that even though you felt like you weren't doing much, you still, right? And I love your transparency to share that God, because you had been putting in the work and being diligent and obedient to your calling, God said, oh, I got you. God said, I got you. So thank you for staying in there when it wasn't easy. Thank you for your commitment and for your bold, everything you do is just bold and brilliant. So I appreciate you, girl.
Appreciate you. Let me thank you, because you cannot get anywhere without support. And Nicole Roberts Jones has been one of those people that join my network. You know, of course she came because she wants to be a part of something, you know, but what she has poured in as a leader, as a person who has, you know, just given back to this community through her brilliance, through workshops and trainings, and just even saying, how can I mentor? How can I help, you know, in any way that I can? That
Yeah.
to me is a blessing. I just have to always give my flowers to those that I appreciate. And you're one of those people. So thank you.
Appreciate you, girl. You know, I love you. You know, I got your back. So with that, thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you. Look, we'll keep going on. So with that, y'all, this woman is a wealth of knowledge. So you better grab her ebook, send an email to info@thebossnetwork.com. And dare I say, go to thebossnetwork.com. And if you've been lonely in these entrepreneurial streets, or you haven't started your business because you don't know where to lay your head, the Boss Network is a great place to network. Then you guys know I always have a gift for you as well. Those of you that are really ready to start your business, what I've learned in my own journey is that there is no one place that gives you a clear I should say to Z, but I say A to B strategy that gives you all the steps you need. And so I was committed to stand in that gap for every person that knows, like, you know, now's your time. And this is for those of you that have a service based business. So if you're trying to do a pen business or you have a lipstick line, I can't help you. But if you're willing to take your intellectual property that you use to create your pen business or your lipstick business or your phone carrying or your clothes or whatever you create, then I got you. Go to bmaroadmap.com. It's free. I walk you through the 9 steps you need, and there's a little video for me there as well. All right. So, with that, thank you for joining me for this episode of Bankroll Your Bridge Thursdays. I'll be back next Thursday with another episode. All right. Do me one favor. If you've gotten any value out of this episode, actually do me two. One, share the value you've gotten here in the comments because I do look at every single comment. That's number one, right? And yes, DJ, is that how you say that? I'm ready. I need some guidance. Good. I look forward to serving you and hearing from you. So, one, tell me the value you got out of today. Second is share it. Now, I'm going to ask you to share it because I'm trying to grow my network or Cameka's, but here is what I'm trying to do: be obedient to both my calling and hers. There are people in your network that need the insight from this episode. So, find that button below, click and share it to your network so they too may be blessed. All right. So, with that said, again, thank you for joining this episode. I'll see you next Thursday for another episode of Bankroll Your Brilliance Thursdays. Bye, y'all.